Thank you so much for coming in today. Let's talk about people and change. Why do some people deal with change better than others?
Well, it depends on a couple of things, right? One is, their own individual makeup, so what they're born in the world with. But then you also have what their personal histories are, also how much stuff is on their plate at the time when change is occurring. So everybody has an individual kind of response to change, and it's not right or wrong, it's just, kind of what is. And there's some things that we can talk about a little later that can help deal with change.
Right. And change doesn't always have to be a bad thing, right?
Right, exactly.
You could take that and turn it into a total positive.
Well, there's always both sides. There's the grieving of what is lost, but then there's also the opportunity for what could be.
Yeah.
So it depends on what you want to focus on, and you do need to give both a little bit of time, but I definitely suggest focusing on the opportunity as well.
Right. Okay. Well, today we're talking about personal upheaval. That's a term we're using.
Yeah.
What exactly is that definition mean?
Well, I think for me, what it means is when change becomes so big, it becomes a bit overwhelming, right? So it can be, and again, it's individual, but it can be like a divorce, or it can be, the loss of a job or a home or whatever it might be, a death of a friend or a family member. It can also be a personal upheaval, depending on what else is going on in the person's life at the time.
Right, exactly. Well, back with Dr. Gans now, and let's start with the first subject we're going to talk about today, moving.
Okay.
So what is the importance of routine in people's lives?
Well, routine is really, really important. We need both. We need routine, we need novelty.
Okay.
Because without novelty, we get really, really bored. But routine is important because it doesn't take the same kind of effort to do the things once you have a routine. So it's kind of like a shortcut for life. The estimate is that about 90 to 95% of the things we do are kind of automatic habits that we do unconsciously. And if you think about the 4 stages of competence, there's the conscious incompetent, so I don't know that I can't do it.
Okay.
Then there's the conscious competent, I know that I can do it. The conscious incompetent, I know that I can't do it. And then the conscious competent, I know that I can do it. So I'm driving a car and I'm thinking my way through everything.
Right.
And there's the unconscious competent. It's like, you're driving your car, you're eating your breakfast, putting on your makeup, doing all the other things we shouldn't be doing, right?
Yeah.
So routine is sort of a shortcut so that we don't have to think our way through everything that we do. So it helps us just to have a calmer, more full life when we are able to have some predictability.
Okay, and then go into a little bit about novelty.
So, and novelty is, again, it's, variety is the spice of life, right? So if you don't have that difference, then we get bored and our world tends to shrink. And if you look at some people who don't do aging very well, their lives tend to shrink. They do fewer and fewer things, get more and more fearful, and pretty soon they're just stuck in the little apartment with the cats, and that's it, right? So yeah.
Okay, well, what are some of the issues that you're going to face when you have to uproot and move to a different city or a different home?
Well, your routine is definitely going to change, because if your physical environment changes, your daily routine will change. You've got to drive a different route to work. Your work itself might change when you move.
Make new friends.
Make new friends. So your sports system is different. Even little things like where you get to your groceries. Even if you go to the same, like if you go to like a Safeway, the Safeway may be laid out slightly different than one in your neighborhood. So you got to kind of readjust to that.
Yeah, even little things like that.
Yeah.
They affect you for sure.
Yeah,
so what are some
absolutely.
of your strategies for dealing with this? Because I know personally that you've moved a lot in your lifetime.
Oh, yeah.
So
Lots.
he's not running from the law, he assured me. But
Yeah, we cleared that up, yeah.
How have you dealt with that?
The big thing is 2 things. One, you can pre-plan, right? So if you know where you're going, you go to the new neighborhood, you get the lay of the land long before you move there, so you can kind of let your unconscious mind get used to the new environment. You can check out the resources in that environment as well to make sure that you know where everything is, so you're not adjusting to having to find a gas station, having to find a dentist, having to find a grocery store, as well as unpacking all your stuff, right? The other thing is looking back. So visit the old neighborhood as often as you can, or if you can't visit them, make sure you visit the friends, or have the friends come and visit you, or if you can't do that, call, because that support system is extremely important, and that's one of the big things that we lose when we make that change.
Well, and just because you move doesn't mean you have to cut off that part of your life.
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean that it's over. It just means that things are changing and you're adding new things to it.
Well, that's the secret with any change. The more stuff you can keep consistent while you manage the change and help the change settle in and get and establish the new normal, the easier it is for you. Short of that, you get what's called change fatigue, where we're just overwhelmed by too much change, too much novelty all the time. It's too much.
So you can set yourself up so that you
Absolutely.
can. All right. Well, we're going to come back in just a little bit. We're going to talk about, I think, divorce next. Okay. So you can look forward to that. But now we'll head over to Kim. Okay. Back with Dr. Gans. Now we're not talking about divorce quite yet. We're going to start with loss of job.
Sure.
Talk to me about how this affects people people?
Well, the job is really, really important to a lot of people because for many people it provides that external sense of structure. So you know what time you got to get up, you know where you got to go. It takes care of like 8 hours a day. Exactly, back to the routine thing. In addition to that, many people socialize. Their whole social structure, or much of their social structure, is right around work. So they're socializing with the folks at work. There's that whole steady income thing that a lot of people like, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the sense of identity. You talked about it before in an earlier segment about when people ask you what you do, who are you? You automatically talk about your job a little bit. So when somebody loses that, that's a lot of loss. And I think Cheryl was talking about the fact that grieving can take place with any loss, and that's something that definitely deserves to be grieved as well.
Oh, for sure. Especially when you're talking about your pride. You put pride into what you work, and then maybe you get fired, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I thought I was doing a really good job. So especially that firing angle can really just knock you off your feet and set you back with your self-esteem and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But why is, people think when they lose their job, they're losing their career. But that's not necessarily true.
No. Well, when I was younger and going through school, I remember they were saying that the average person will have like 3 careers or 3 jobs in their lives, right? And by the time I hit university, it was up to like 6 or 7, and now it's like
running for
whatever.
The law
That's
thing
right.
Again, yeah.
So there's going to be change. The only constant in life is change. And that, with the work environment the way we have it now, there's so much change in terms of opportunity. The newer people coming out and going into jobs, they're also seeing it. They're planning for this. They're seeing themselves as independent contractors that will look for the best sort of deal and go around and kind of shop around and move around quite a bit. So change and changing of job is not necessarily changing a career, moving within a field.
And it's not necessarily looked about as a bad thing anymore. Like
not
before,
you
needed to work for years and years and years at the company. Now it's more kind of common. So
more fluid.
Yeah.